Our forefathers argued for years over what should be the national symbol. Well, some felt it should be the eagle because it shows freedom, strength, and courage. And it is a native bird found only in North America. So despite the fact that it is a chicken thief, around 1782, the bald eagle was adopted as the national symbol. Well, Sue Bouchard created this charming eagle with its wings spread wide open. Well, there's a number of techniques in this wall hanging that I'd like to teach you. First of all, there's nice sharp points on the wings. Those come from half square triangles, and I have a great technique to show you. The head comes with diagonal line sewing, easy to do, and you will love the applique on the tail. Well, the whole wall hanging is surrounded with a star-spangled patriotic stripe border, and the crowning touch are these 3 golden stars. So join me as we soar with the eagles. Ben Franklin wished that the bald eagle had not been chosen to represent the country because he wanted the turkey. Now, he said a turkey was a respectable bird and it was a Native American's. Well, Ben Franklin didn't win out. But this is the eagle that's all sewn together. I want you to just take a close look because its wings are spread wide open. And then as the wings go down, you can see all these nice points along here. Well, this is the bird's head. This is his beak right here, the head with more piece squares right here. And you can see going down into the body, and then the tail is just appliqued on. Well, this whole patchwork is made of 9 separate units. Well, the first 4 are the easiest ones because they're actually just 6.5-inch background squares. You have one right in the middle of those wings that are spread wide, and then the whole bottom row is made of 6.5-inch squares. Just the tail is appliqued in the center one. Well, let's go back up to the top because these are the upper wings, and when you look at them beside each other, they are actually mirror image. So you can see how they go down into that V. Remember that. There's going to be a test afterwards. And then these are the middle wings. They are also mirror image of each other. Now, this is the body, and this one is different. Here's the beak right here, the head. You can see these are piece triangle squares, parts of the body going right into the appliqued tail. Well, I want to start with all these points on the wings. Now you need to have 2 reds, a medium red and a dark red. And these are all 6-inch squares, the medium right sides together with a 6-inch background, and then I also have the dark red right here. We're going to make 8 points. We're going to use all 8 in the medium, only 7 in the dark red. So take your 6x12 and place your ruler corner to corner, and then with a permanent marking pen, something that you can see, draw lines corner to corner. It's just like drawing a big X right on them. And then you can go ahead, put some pins in the sides just to hold them together. Now I'm going to use a 1/4-inch seam and just stitch down both sides of both diagonal lines. I'm using that great 1/4-inch foot, and I just put the bar right on the line so that when you stitch, your stitching is 1/4 inch away. So let me just get right down here. When you get to the bottom, you just raise your presser foot, turn, and sew on the opposite side. Now you could assembly line sew both of these if you would like, both sets of squares if you would like. You know, some eagles have even been American heroes. There's an old eagle called Old Abe, and he flew in the Civil War with the militia from Wisconsin. He flew a total of 14,000 miles. You know, he lived through 42 battles. And oh, all of the enemies were always shooting after him, trying to get him down. But he survived 42 battles. Now I ask you, could a turkey do that? Pretty good for the eagle, isn't it? Well, I'm finished sewing this piece together, and it's actually best if you just go ahead and set that seam before you cut it apart. So we'll just give it some steam, because as you're stitching on this, you do a little bit of stretching. It is on the bias. Okay, now I'm going to take the 6x12 ruler, go back and cut the 6-inch square into 4 units. So just line up the 3-inch line along the side one way, cut it in half, turn the ruler the other way, line up 3 inches right there, cut it into 4s, and then line up the diagonal line, cut on both diagonals. And I have 8 pieces already. These are going to be the points for the wing. Now, they have to be squared up to perfect 2.5 inches, and I know you're going, oh goody, I love to do squaring up. Wrong. Probably not your favorite. But I have this easy method I think you'll like. I'm just going to take this patch right here, has the stitching line on it, and just place the triangle ruler right on that stitching. Here's the 2.5-inch line right along the stitching, and you can see here's the extra right along here that I have to trim off just to make that perfect. And then before you're done trimming, take the corners, trim off one way and the other. Now, if I'm lucky, this is going to be a perfect 2.5-inch square. Okay, take it to the press, set the seam with the dark on the top, and just lift and just press right into the patch. Ooh, it's looking good. Now, whenever I check this against another ruler, this is going to be the real test. If I put it against another ruler, and it is a perfect 2.5 inches. Well, from all of these, you're going to make 8 with the medium and the background, only 7 with the dark and the background. And then this is how you lay it out. Right here, this is going to be magical, because these are all the units you need for the upper wing. These are the pieces that I just made. Just think of those 3 in a row, making that diagonal line. This is background. So this is also a 2.5-inch square on opposite corners. This is the 2.5-inch, the blue star sky. And then this piece, once they're all sewn together, it should be 6.5 inches wide. So this is a 2.5-inch by 6.5-inch piece there. Okay, make the upper wings for here and here that are the mirror image pieces. And then with the remaining points, you're going to do the middle wings. Each middle wing has 3 of the points. This is a 2.5-inch square. This is 2.5 by 6.5. And this, the blue sky, the blue starred piece, is only 2.5 by 4.5. So get those 4 units done, and I'll show you how to go on with the face. Sue brought this eagle feather back from Montana, and it is just a beautiful piece of artwork. Well, it has the light and the dark coloration, and the coloration is just symbolic of life with the two, with the man and the woman, with day, night, peace, war, summer, winter, always with the two. Just beautiful. Well, I want to show you how to do the face, and that is the trickiest patch of all. So let's take a look at it. Right here's the beak, and you see the head right here, and then this part is the continuation of that wing. Well, it starts out as the unit that I just showed you how to make. It's 2.5 inches square, and we want to take a 2-inch square of that same red. I already drew a diagonal line on it, and you place that diagonal line so that it is parallel with the previous line of stitching. Now, that diagonal line is for sewing on. I'm going to do a number of stitching on the line. So once you get that concept, you'll do just great with this. Well, I'm creating the beak with this part of it. So once you stitch on that line, then just take your ruler, trim 1/4 inch away, just take that old tip, cut off those threads, get rid of that tip, and then open that up and press so that the seam is behind the dark. Well, that's an unusual piece. This is what we're trying to create right now, and it looks like it's a good start. Now, the head is actually a 1.5 inch by 2.5 inch piece, and I'm going to place it right sides together to this unit and just stitch right along this seam. Very unique. You know, Sue Bouchard created this whole quilt, and she gets to spend her summers in Montana. Boy, what a great time she has, and I know she sees bald eagles from her house. Just wonderful. Okay, this piece, once again, I'm just going to take this unit, get rid of that, and open this out. And it doesn't look like a beak and a head, but honestly, that is what it is. So let me just push that along there. This should be squared up to 2.5 inches. Now you're going to put this goes with that continuation of the wing right here. It's 2 pieces that create that V. And whenever these 3 units are sewn together, this is what it looks like right here. Well, this is moving along fast. Let's just get rid of all of these. Okay, to finish this whole piece, now you need to have a 1.5 inch by 6.5 inch of that same red. And then down here, we're starting the body and the tail. Now the body, this dark blue, is a 3.5 inch by 6.5 inch piece. And that blue star piece, you need to have 2 3.5 inch squares of this star fabric, and the first one has a diagonal line on it. Already drew it, and you just sew on that line. Same old thing. Stitch right on there. You know, many times people take the pieces that they cut away and figure out how to make little extra projects out of them. Well, that's your challenge. Okay, stitched on the line, and so now I'm just going to take that 1/4 inch trim away, get rid of it, open this, and then press this out. This is actually like a 3.5 inch by 6.5 inch geese patch. But since I'm only making one, I'm doing it a special way. Okay, take your second 3.5 inch square. The diagonal line is going along there, and then you just sew on that line. Now, if you'd like, you could go ahead and also square this one up to 3.5 by 6.5 using our flying geese ruler. That way you'll make sure that the patch is perfect. And then once again, trim that extra away and push out that seam. Make it nice and flat. And this is the last part right there for that 6.5 inch patch. Sew it all together, and you've got one more done. And that one is the different one in the whole quilt. Now, the tail is really easy applique, so let me just move all of this aside. This is the tail right here. The center part is that blue star. It's 6.5 inches by 1.5 inches wide, and it just gets a little shorter. Pieces are shorter as it goes up, so these are still 1.5 inches wide, but they're only 6 inches long. This is only 5.5 inches long. The outside pieces are 2.5 inches wide. Sew those 5 pieces together. Just go ahead and press those seams so they're all behind the dark. Now, this is the tail pattern, and what makes this so easy, we don't have to do any needle turn on this. This is light to medium weight, non-woven, fusible interfacing. And just go ahead and draw a tail design. Place the fusible side against the right side of the fabric, and then you just sew on the line. Simple. And once you've sewn on the line, go ahead and trim 1/8 inch away. So now the fusing is in the inside, and all you have to do is just turn this whole unit right side out. Go ahead and use your fingers. It's got a nice opening up at the top. And just curve around those outside edges, and this is the piece that gets placed right on top of that 6.5 inch square. So once it's pressed flat, fusing on the back, position it, center it, fuse it in place, and then just stitch right around those outside edges. Well, that actually takes care of all of the different units to put this whole eagle together. Well, once these are all sewn together, you make the stars. Let me get the stars ready to show you. We're soaring to the finish line. Well, we have 3 stars to make, and they are also 6.5 inches or 6 inch finish size. So when you have the 3 stars sewn together, they fit right into the top of that eagle. Now we're going to divide the stars with a 2.5 inch strip that is also the same length as that top. Oh, it's just so pretty. Blue as the sky, yellow as the sun. We need to have two different sizes of squares for this. Now, the points of the star are going to be yellow, so that size square is 6 inches. And then the geese part, or the sky part, is blue, 4.5 inches square. So I'm just going to take these two squares and place them right sides together. The tricky part is to get them centered. Get the smaller one centered right in the top. And then once it's centered, take a ruler, draw a diagonal line, corner to corner. It's a little different geese technique, but you are just going to love this. And then with a 1/4 inch seam, sew on both sides of the diagonal line. This foot is just perfect. I'm dropping the bar right in the line. Just with your stiletto, hold on to it. And since we're just doing 3, you could assembly line. I'm doing 1 right now, so I'll just turn it around and sew on the other side. Now, once this is sewn, cut it in half on that diagonal. So let me just grab this up here, cut it in half, and turn it over so the largest triangles are on the top. You always put the largest triangle, it doesn't matter about color, largest triangle is on top. Open and press right into it. Gosh, a lot of times I just like to sit at my sewing machine and use my wooden iron instead of just jumping up and down to my regular iron. So push the seam so that it's behind the largest triangle. Now these are 2 really strange looking pieces. So you take them, place them right sides together again, opposite colors touching each other, seams parallel, and right out here you're just going to have that eagle's tail. This is your clue that it's right, and this is the best part. These seams do not have to match. Oh, you're just going to dance for that one. Now, take your ruler again, draw one other diagonal line right down through the middle. It's exactly the same technique, and at this point, you've got that seam right in the middle. You want to watch that that doesn't flip. Okay, this one's going up, so this is easy to hold down with the stiletto. This one underneath is going down naturally, so it'll be easy to keep that one flat. This is how you get really sharp points on your geese patches, especially if you've held those seams down. So I always do my finger on one side, my stiletto on the other, hold it flat. Same thing here, finger one side, stiletto on the other, so that it doesn't do any twisting when I'm stitching it. Turn it around. Just do a little bit more sewing right down along there. You know that eagles lay very few eggs. Did you realize that? They only lay 1 or 2 eggs in their lifetime. They just have 1 or 2 nestlings. Now this is my favorite part, that the male eagle has to go to the grocery store. He has to go out and get all the food. He brings the food back, gives it to the female to feed to the babies. Okay, now I stitched on both sides of the line. Just going to take my ruler cutter, cut it in half. And at this point, you open it up and you go, oh my gosh, I've been off before, but never that much. Well, these are actually those little star points. If I hold it like this, you'll see the star points. So that these pieces lay flat right here on the back side, in between the 2 of them. I'm going to just take a little clip so I can press those seams flat in both directions. Okay, just out of those 2 squares, I have 4 star points. Pretty good. Okay, I'm going to hold it right side up, go right into the star point on one of them, turn it around, go right into the star point in the other. Check and make sure with that little clip it lays perfectly flat, and it does. Now comes the flying geese ruler. I'm using the small flying geese ruler. It's a ruler that ends up being 3 by 6 or 1.5 by 3. And I want to use the 1.5 by 3 right now. The red lines on it. So place the red lines right on the stitches. And the first cut is just across the top to separate those, and then cut on the right side. Take this, get rid of it. Okay, tip up the ruler and turn the patch. And line up that ruler one more time. Got that perfect 1/4 inch seam right there. Just trim right side and across the top. And that is just a perfect star point. Well, you're going to make 4 out of these patches and just lay out your star like this. Okay, it is, right now, it's 2 inches in depth. That's for our seam allowance. So these are 2-inch squares, and this is a 3.5-inch center, yellow to match the star points. So get your stars sewn together, and sew all 3 in a row. And then all you need to do is just add your lattice. Well, down in the bottom, another 2.5-inch strip, and the lattice is 2.5-inch strips that's pieced the whole width of this eagle. And then you just need to add more strips, more lattice strips. A 2.5-inch strip dividing it over here, and more lattice to finish the outside edge. This is looking so good. And this is the label that I selected for the back. As soon as I sew this together, I'm going to quilt it and add the label. Just beautiful. Sue Bouchard created this handsome bald eagle with just a few changes in technique. Well, its white head really stands out against the black body fabric and the blue sky. And then she added white to the tail feathers just before she sewed on that fusible interfacing. Well, the sky fabric is just a wonderful mottle blue. I love that touch of gold in the black. And the yellow stars just shine in that midnight sky. Well, Sue machine quilted it simply by stitching the ditch around each piece of patchwork. It's beautiful. Well, I love this quote about the bald eagle. All those who see me and all who believe in me share in the freedom I feel when I fly. Well, that's from The Eagle and the Hawk from John Denver and Mike Taylor. Well, what fun this is. I found this flag in an antique store. It's made from satin yo-yos. Now, it's pretty hard for me to guess when it was made, but I know a proud American lovingly stitched it. You know, there's 210 yo-yos, 111 red and 99 white. That's a lot. Well, the quilt maker also crocheted 48 little stars. Well, I guess that's a clue. It must have been before 1959 when Alaska joined the Union. And then she stitched them to this 11 by 8.5-inch rectangle of blue. Now, the yo-yos are in rows exactly like the real flag. There's 13 stripes. In this row, there's 12 yo-yos in each. And then in these rows, 21 yo-yos. You know, yo-yos are just so much fun, relaxing to do. Well, I already started this one, ran it through a thread conditioner, and I've turned under that raw edge. These are 2.5-inch yo-yos. And you just take and turn under about 1/8 of an inch. You know, this is one time you can do those really big, ugly stitches. No cute little stitches on this one. But you just keep on gathering those stitches on the needle. You know, I'm sure that the original flag maker was probably out riveting instead of watching TV, making yo-yos. You know, actually, my mother-in-law, Helen Burns, was a riveter. It's just a wonderful tribute to women in America, huh? Well, I'm back to where I started. And so I'm just going to pull this tight, and just before I finish, I'm going to pop this through like this, pull it a little bit more, and just smash it down. You just flatten it as you pull it together, and then just knot it off right here. Your yo-yo is finished. Then just take them, stitch them together on 4 sides. You'll have your flag together. Well, quilts offer just a perfect way to celebrate our great country. You know, they're just part of our heritage. Well, quilts show our strength and our American spirit. So let's celebrate the love of our country with crowd-pleasing red, white, and blue.